And on today's show, how to learn and implement the power of affirmation. Part 4 of this week's series, The Psychology of the Smart Advisor, with personal performance expert and money psychologist, Dr. Jack Singer. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Backroom Technician in Innsmouth. Let's get down to business. Well, welcome to day 4, Dr. Jack.
Thank you.
Well, if you've missed our show, I have to say, don't watch this show until you watch Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in succession, because I think you'll get a better tutorial experience. And if you're looking to really change your behavior and performance, some of the things we're talking about, I have to confess, I was in there having my little epiphany, and I'd like to have you have the same kind of epiphany and revelation on your own practice. Everything we're talking about all this week is found in Dr. Jack's book, The Financial Advisor's Ultimate Stress Mastery Guide. You can get it on Amazon.com or on Dr. Jack's site. Dr. Jack, we're talking today, we're going to walk through what you call the 5 C's, this affirmation process. It's a process.
It is.
And it's a process to walk through the 5 C's. Let's talk about the first one, and this is the one where I think our male audience will probably have a little harder problem, commitment.
Yes, and I'm talking about commitment here to committing yourself to a goal, for example, not committing yourself to a woman. I'm talking about committing yourself to a goal. We find that a lot of people who don't accomplish whatever they consider to be a reasonable goal for them is because they've never psychologically committed to it. One of the ways to commit to a goal, which most people don't think about, is to ask yourself, A, why do I want this goal? B, is it achievable? And number 3, the most important thing, Steve, is how can I sabotage myself to guarantee I won't reach it? Now, I say that because people sabotage themselves all the time and they don't think about it. Now I want you to think about it. So let's say a simple goal is you want to lose 20 pounds in 3 months, okay? How can I sabotage myself to make sure this doesn't happen? Oh yeah, well I can continue to eat ice cream before I go to bed at night. I can maintain what I'm doing now, which is never exercising. Oh yeah, that's how I've been sabotaging myself. I want you to think about what you've done unconsciously to sabotage yourself from reaching your goals. And then once you do that, you recognize it, you can commit to the goal.
So let's say I'm committing, because I think most of our advisors, we think in terms of work achievement.
Yes.
So I have goals. Now, there are statistical goals. I'm sorry, but that's the pathology we live in.
Right.
There are statistical goals. I'm looking for X amount of premium. I'm looking for X amount of clients to get to my level of lifestyle.
Right.
So in a commitment, is it okay sometimes? I guess what I'm thinking is I want to make sure I'm committing to the right thing. I don't want to just commit nilly-willy.
Right. You want to commit to something that's achievable and not so high up that you're almost guaranteed to, quote, fail, set yourself up for failure, which a lot of people do. It would be like somebody deciding, oh, a good goal for me would be to set a world record. Well, the probabilities of setting a world record, I'm working with an 18-year-old golfer right now who decided that he is capable of being a pro, so he dropped out of high school.
Wow.
And to try to qualify to become a pro. Well, the chances of making a pro, whether you're 18 or any age, are about 2%. And this person has decided this is a reasonable commitment instead of taking a college scholarship in golf. So probably a mistake. So we need to commit to something that's realistic. And once you do that, you can say, okay, now what are the steps I need to take? And what can I do to sabotage myself? Because once I recognize that, I'll make sure I don't do that.
When I'm thinking about commitment, I'm thinking about also this issue that you call your next C called control.
Yes. The problem with type A people, and most advisors are type A's, they tend to get into these fields of sales and so forth because they've put so much of their energy into their work that they almost have to be successful. But one of the problems with type A personality types is that they feel the need to control. It's all or nothing thinking. If I don't control everything, I'll fail. For example, I have a daughter who's an attorney. She's really off the charts type A. She has to control everything. She'll call me up and say, make sure you make a reservation at this restaurant for my grandchildren. I have to know it's done. I mean, she goes off the charts. I keep telling her to read my book. Her office manager tells her to read my book, but she won't do it. But that's the control issue.
When we're trying to control things, and especially earlier in the week, you were really helping my thought process. I'm going to eliminate trying to control things that are absolutely out of my control.
Right.
I have nothing, I can't do anything about it.
Right.
I'm pushing that off my table.
Right.
I'm not going to address those anymore. Now, the things I can't control, I'm trying to now say, oh, it's okay to be in gray, not
Yes.
black or white.
Right.
It's okay. That's
Right.
not a defeat. That's not a failure.
That's right.
So, and then I'm thinking of all or nothing, which is, oh my gosh, we're talking about Steve Savant, the Marine. You know, I mean, all or nothing, right?
Right.
And now it's okay not to have all.
That's right.
That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. You don't have to have all to be successful. A lot of people attribute success based on what they've done in the past and think that's the only road to success. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's a lot healthier ways than being a control freak.
We come back from the break. We're going to talk about 3 more C's in Dr. Jack's Power of Affirmation. It's really great. We'll be right back after the break. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to the second segment. Of course, I have Dr. Jack Singer in the house. We're talking about his 5 powerful powers of affirmation. We've talked about commitment, we've talked about control. Now we're talking about challenge.
Right. If you look at challenges as something to embrace, because you know from past experience that you've overcome other challenges to get where you are today, then that's a much healthier way to look at these, quotes, obstacles than someone who looks at it as, I don't know if I can do this, I'm overwhelmed. We want to get away from that feeling of being overwhelmed, which is easy to fall into when you don't know what to do first and you wind up procrastinating and you don't do anything. So we want to embrace challenges because that makes you feel great when you've accomplished it. And you have to keep recalling when you've done that in the past, so it'll give you the encouragement to go and do it again.
I remember going into the gym a couple years back. I hadn't worked out in a little while. I knew I could not bench 225 like I did when I was a younger man. I knew I had to go about half that weight.
Right.
Just to do it.
Right.
The challenge was not to lift the 125 pounds versus the 225.
Right.
The challenge was to be doing this in the public without looking demeaning because I'm half the weight.
Really? Again, worried about what other people think.
Right.
Okay, so in my book, there's 2 personality types that cause stress. One is type A, the other is the people pleaser. And the people pleaser personality embraces worrying about what other people will think instead of just focusing on what you're doing. So you do a lot of mind reading, assuming people are thinking negatively about you. Again, it's time to challenge that. Do I have any evidence of that? You know, what's happened in the past? And you realize that most of that is just crazy thinking.
When I think about this next C, this is one that I think that a lot of people experience this issue of, okay, change is coming. It's now unavoidable. Now you want me to embrace it.
Right. And you have to, because change, the only reason we're where we are as a country is because we've constantly had change and we've dealt with the change. And people need to recognize that the change doesn't have to be threatening. It can be a positive change. That what can you do different? Think about it, for example, in a relationship you've had. You know, maybe you thought at the end of one relationship that your life is doomed, you'll never meet anyone again that you'd be happy with. But think about what happened. Change came and you were even happier with the next person. Or I've dealt with in my practice for many years people who get laid off or fired from a job and think it's doomsday. And I'm always telling them, when one door closes, another one opens. Just keep your eyes open. And I can't tell you how many times, Steve, over the years, people have come back to me and said, Dr. Jack, you were so right. I would have stayed in that dead-end job forever if they didn't let me go, and now I'm in a much better position. So change is very positive, not negative.
For advisors that are out there that are really stuck in their rut, their basic routine, and they know that they have to change to go to the next level of production and expanding their practice.
Right.
What's the segue to get to that place where I'm willing to adopt and embrace it?
Yeah, it's different for everybody, but for example, technology is change, and there's a lot of technology coming into the producer's world that maybe you don't want to deal with. I just want to do it the old way, you know, sell a policy, do this and that. But embracing technology can be great for you and for the client, and you have to look at the changes. They're not arbitrary. There's a reason for these changes. Someone has come up with a new product, someone has come up with a new technology that's going to help you. So again, it all gets back to the last C that we're going to talk about, which is your lack of confidence that's making you become afraid of change.
All right, let's say I am afraid of change, and it's like we said 2 days ago. It's an unwarranted fear, false evidence appearing real.
Right.
So now we've identified it, we recognize it as such, and I still have a little bit of trepidation making the change, but I'm willing to do it because we're doing a small step.
That's right.
Trying to add some of the things we've talked about this week.
Right.
Now I'm willing to build my first real confidence to go on to the next level of achievement.
Right. You have to take a risk and do something different than you've done before. Risk really has its rewards. I like to say you have to go out on a limb a bit because that's where the fruit is. It's not sitting at the safe trunk. You have to go out on a limb, get the fruit, realize that, oh, I could have been doing this years ago, and I'm glad I'm doing it now because I can keep doing it. So it's just like, Robert Frost wrote a poem, and part of it was, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Sorry, I couldn't travel both. I took the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. So you take a risk, you do something different, you will be rewarded.
Is that the only carrot to making that decision? My reward at the end game.
Well, it's not just the reward, because the end game that you keep talking about reward in is a number. What I'm talking about is saving your life. Because the less stress you have, the longer you will live. Stress, we now know, is as important as heart disease and smoking in predicting the length of someone's life. So if you have less stress, you're extending your life, and therefore extending yourself in the eyes and in front of your family, which you wouldn't have done if you didn't change it. So you really have a lot of incentive here, besides a number, to make changes like this.
If this is so impacting, how long if a person wanted to engage you? Let's say he said, hey, I really need to talk to Dr. Jack. I have no problem. And with the stigma of talking to a psychologist, I think is a lot less than it used to be in the old days.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to you. When you look at it, what kind of commitment do you look for?
That's a good question. Actually, if you engage me, we're not doing it as a psychologist and client. We're doing it as a success coach for advisors, and there's a big difference. I'm not going into family history. I'm not determining what mental, emotional issues you may have. I am coaching you using the book, actually, to coach you to be the best success you can be. That's a lot different than therapy. So it's not therapy per se. The advantage for you is you're getting a guy with 30 years of therapy experience to be your coach, as opposed to a guy who comes and advertises tomorrow he's going to be a coach, a life coach, with no experience in anything, okay? But it's coaching we're doing, not therapy, so there's no stigma at all.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance department. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.